Hi, I'm Adam Johnston from NCD International. Welcome to your NCD Result Guides, a team-based process for releasing all-by-itself growth in your church. Each guide contains step-by-step instructions, but before you begin the process, there are a few points to consider that will help make your journey as fruitful as possible. They are: who do you need to take with you? Where are you going? And what is your part to play? So, let's get started. Who do you need to take with you? Not everyone in your church has the same influence on its overall health. In fact, your NCD results reflect the influence of a surprisingly small number of people. Imagine everyone in your church lined up in order of their individual influence within church life. This line will stretch from the key influences at one end through to those we might call the Christmas and Easter attendees at the other. Through the history of your church, as long or short as it may be, key influences have taught, modelled, prioritised, or allowed into existence what is often called your church's culture. Culture which is now reflected very clearly in your NCD results. It is important to understand that these key influences may or may not have a leadership position, be outspoken, or even be members of your church. However, they will most certainly be people who can get decisions through or block them, are sought for advice, and are most respected or feared. At the end of the day, where they go or grow, so goes your church. Therefore, the greatest strategic mistake during the NCD Result Guide process, or any church development process for that matter, would be to develop plans primarily for those with less influence, the congregation. Whether you are a church of 5 or 5,000, the beauty of the key influencer principle is that if these people take some personal responsibility for your church's minimum factor challenges and follow through with really simple plans to do things differently in their daily lives, their new, healthier influence will flow all by itself throughout the rest of your church and beyond. Aim to involve every key influencer in the Result Guide process, but of course, recognise that some will find the personal implications too challenging to begin with. This needn't be a problem. Just start working with those who are willing to accept their share of honour and responsibility. So, in your church, who would be considered a good spiritual example? Who is commonly viewed as having great potential? Who knows most about how the church functions? Who is constantly elected to official positions? Whose opinion carries the most weight? Whose humility is a challenge to others? Who is most widely respected? Who is most feared? Where are you going? Each of your NCD result guides presents exactly the same results in what you could call slightly different languages. A little bit like reading a passage from the Bible in a paraphrased and amplified in the Life Application version. You have available to you step-by-step versions of the NCD result guides and also chart-only versions. While a chart-only version allows you to fully customize the process to your own circumstances and experience, here is an overview of the tried and tested step-by-step approach. As soon as you've finished this video, you can start work with the summary guide. Because we've designed it with no scoring numbers and very minimal detail, it is ideal to send out to your key influencers before you meet together. The idea being that the summary guide raises curiosity and questions based on its broad summary of your results. Having sent out the summary guide, call a meeting of the key influencers at which you will briefly review the summary guide and then walk together through the story guide. The story guide also leaves out scoring numbers so as to keep your focus on the themes of your results. The story guide discussion is not a time for debate and rigorous analysis. That can come later. For the moment, it provides a rare opportunity for the key influencers to ask themselves, what possible stories are the survey participants telling us through their collective responses? Heartfelt responses made possible because of the protection of anonymity. Action on your results will commence at the end of this very first meeting. Each key influencer will choose a personal cycle starter to act upon before your next meeting. It's a kind of simple experiment through which they will experience firsthand the kind of dynamics connected with your minimum factor issues, and perhaps, without knowing it, start to make significant progress on your church's health as their influence across the church begins to change. Sometime after your story guide meeting, you will get together again. This time, the purpose is to discuss everyone's experience and progress with their cycle starters and to spend some time looking at the status guide. This guide provides a detailed picture on your results that includes how your church is going compared to other churches in your country. If this is a repeat NCD survey for your church, it will also highlight where progress has been made and where you may have some longer-term cultural sticking points that need to be more directly addressed. Preparing for this status guide discussion is also a great opportunity to do some delegation. If you have the chance, give a copy of the status guide to one or two analytical people in your team who will have a great time exploring the details and then feeding back extra fine-tuning insights to the group during the meeting. With the key influencers continuing with their now refined cycle starter plans, the next stop is the strategy guide. With important practical action having already started earlier on after the story guide discussion, the strategy guide looks directly to the future and presents some growth projections based on your church's current attendance and quality level. It also reveals what could happen to that growth if the key influencers continue leading the way on improving the minimum factor areas. The strategy guide also sets out to bring your whole church on board with the process, largely by revisiting and building upon many of the actions and discussions the key influencers have already undertaken. Again, before getting together for this last formal stage of the process, take the chance to do some delegation and give a copy of the strategy guide to one or two faithful people who are great at keeping everybody on track. The process will then continue, organically woven into the thousands of changed daily habits and activities that make up church life for your key influencers and congregation. Along the way, you will continue to have ongoing growth cycle discussions to keep each other on track. These may happen formally, as part of other regular meetings, or just whenever two or more gather who are wanting to do their part to see your church experience life in all its fullness. When you sense the change, which won't be more than a year into the future, repeat the survey to see how far you've come and do the cycle process again, but hopefully starting at a higher level. What is your part to play? Prior to your result discussions, spend time with each guide as a time of prayerful personal reflection. Ask God to speak to you through the results. As the facilitator of the process, it is essential that you engage with the results at a personal level to see what God may be wanting to grow in your life for the sake of your church. The example you set in this will be watched and will have a powerful influence on others. Your NCD National Partner and NCD Coach or a fellow NCD Pastor may be a helpful resource at this time to provide additional wisdom throughout the process. They may also be a good friend to speak to if there are responses within the results that you feel may be a strong reflection of you. While the ultimate goal of the process is the transformation of your church and surrounding community, the process itself is designed to have a transforming effect on those involved. So, watch for the new things God does in the lives of those you meet with, and look for ways to nurture that new life into maturity. The steps ahead of you could be full of encouragement and offer great clues about taking your church to a new level. But also, these meetings will inevitably surface issues that challenge you and the key influencers. Either way, be encouraged that, just like the work of God's grace, progress in NCD is not dependent on your starting point or current situation. Churches of all starting points have experienced a new era of life and fruitfulness through the NCD process. So, please have the courage to allow the weight of NCD's global research and the survey responses of your people change the way you think, act and feel, and challenge your key influencers to do the same. Most of all, enjoy the view as you, your church, and your surrounding community move closer and closer to a fuller, more centered experience of God.